Hey guys, welcome back to the Guitar Max channel. So, in the guitar news, ZZ Top have cashed out and sold their music catalog, including their publishing rights, for more than $50 million. Not 15, 50 million. Who knew that Texas rock had such a high price tag? Okay guys, so I'm going to tell you about all of this. I've got two really good articles here that I want to share with you. But real quick, if you enjoy videos about guitars and staying up on all the latest news in the guitar universe, and you have not already subscribed, please consider subscribing right now. Okay, so before we get into these articles here, I just want to point out that ZZ Top is just the latest in a string of older or legacy artists that have recently sold their music catalogs. Bruce Springsteen did something similar recently, as well as Motley Crue. And honestly, I hate to say this, but for an older artist like this, it makes sense. Because sadly, artists like this are, in all likeliness, towards the end of their career. But their music still has a popularity, and so it still has a lot of value to a record company or publishing company. Now, with ZZ Top, it's important to point out that original member and bassist of the band, Dusty Hill, passed away recently in 2021. He was 72 and he was still touring with the band just a week before he died. So I really have no idea if the passing of Dusty Hill had anything to do with the band's decision to sell their catalog. But I can imagine that the remaining guys, Billy Gibbons and Frank Beard, might have been thinking, hey, we've had a career that's lasted more than 50 years and we're getting up there now. Let's cash out and live the good life. Okay, now I've got these two articles up here. One of them's from guitar.com, which just gives a nice overview of the whole situation. And then the other one is from Billboard.com, which goes deeper into the band's finances and the numbers. And there are some surprises in there in terms of how relevant ZZ Top has remained over the years. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So like I said, the first article is from guitar.com, and I'm going to have a link for this, for all this stuff in the video description below. ZZ Top sell catalog to BMG and KKR for reported $50 million. Their publishing catalog and royalty rights were part of the sale. Blues rockers ZZ Top have sold their publishing catalog and royalty rights to BMG and KKR in a deal reportedly worth up to $50 million. Full details of the deal were not disclosed. It covers all of the music interests of ZZ Top, including their entire catalog's publishing rights and income generated by performance and recording royalties. The deal covers all of the, quote, music interests of ZZ Top, including their publishing rights and any income from recorded music royalties and performance royalties. BMG had previously been the co-publisher and administrator of ZZ Top's publishing catalog. Incidentally, BMG is Bertelsmann Music Group, formerly known as RCA Victor, now owned by Sony. The article goes on to say here, ZZ Top's manager Carl Stubner said in a statement, "We are proud to continue working with and expanding our long-standing relationship with BMG. This new deal ensures ZZ Top's remarkable legacy will endure for generations to come." BMG CEO Hartwig Masuch added, "This deal is a testament to the success, staying power, and continuing musical relevance of ZZ Top, but also to the power of our partnership with KKR. This agreement furthers our vision of providing artists and songwriters not just a financial exit, but also a vehicle committed to respecting and treasuring their artistry." And it goes on here to talk about Dusty Hill. Earlier this year, I was in 2021, longtime ZZ Top bassist Dusty Hill died at the age of 72. He had been the bassist band for over 50 years. The group announced their intention to continue, embarking on a tour with his replacement, Elwood Francis. BMG has recently acquired the catalogs of Mick Fleetwood, Tina Turner, and Motley Crue. It announced a partnership with KKR back in March. Let's see. The sale follows countless other sales of catalogs of legacy artists, many of which are valued in the tens of millions of dollars, some even reaching hundreds of millions. Okay, so again, that touches on a lot of the stuff that I talked about in the beginning of the video, and that's the article on guitar.com. That just gives you a general overview of what happened. But now, let's go over to the Billboard article because they go into a little more depth with the actual numbers and the financials here. And this is really interesting. Okay, so Billboard here, they say ZZ Top sells catalog to BMG and KKR. Billboard estimates the deal, which includes rock staples like Legs and La Grange, carries about a $55 million valuation. So they're actually putting that number a little bit higher, not 50 million, but 55 million. And you're like, hey, 50, 55, what's the difference? Well, it's $5 million. Now, they go on here, BMG and KKR have acquired all of ZZ Top's music interests, including the band's publishing catalog and recorded music royalties, according to an announcement from the two companies. So the beginning of the article is similar to the Guitar.com article, but if we go down a little further in the article, this is where it gets really interesting here. So let's check this out. It says, looking at the ZZ Top catalog's performance, Billboard estimates that the ZZ Top recorded masters catalog has averaged annually about $4.48 million in revenue over the last 4 years. That's annually, more than $4 million each year over the past 4 years. So not like in the 80s, like right now. Now, it goes on here, last 4 years, and consequently, the band's royalties from that are about $1.5 million. Okay, so 4.4 annual revenue, money coming in, and of that, 1.5 million is in royalties to the band. Now they go on here. Meanwhile, Billboard estimates that the band's publishing comes out to about 1.26 million annually, and the band's share of that is about 950,000, so a little bit less than $1 million. Now, the article goes on to talk about, some of their top-selling records and their greatest hits and so forth, but that paragraph that we just read is really important there because what they're talking about is they're talking about the money that is coming in for the band in modern times, like today. They're not talking about the band's 70s and 80s heyday. They're talking about the money that the band is making right now. And think about that. A band that is more than 50 years old is still bringing in millions of dollars each year in revenue. And let's add a little chronological perspective in this, right? Because like I said in the beginning, and like the other article said, a lot of these so-called legacy artists, older artists, are going this route now. But think about this. Think of all of the classic artists like ZZ Top that are still very commonplace artists. You still hear them on the radio all the time. You hear, songs in commercials and movies, and people just know these songs. These songs are still the soundtrack to people's lives, despite being decades old. And then compare that to bands that have come out in the past 20 years. Even if you include pop artists, there are just not that many artists that have the same staying power and longevity as these older bands. Imagine Arcade Fire or Panic at the Disco trying to sell their catalogs for $50 million. Even though those bands were really big when they came out and they were big for their era, they just don't have the longevity of a band like ZZ Top. And that's really where the big money is. It's in longevity, right? Because you look at the numbers that ZZ Top is bringing in, even though the band is many decades old, right? They've got this huge history behind them and they're still making a ton of money. They've basically proven that the band will continue to be, valuable going into the future. And so that's, a record label or, one of these big companies will look at that and be like, okay, that band, we want to buy that. That band is going to be a good investment. And just on a personal note here, guys, I'm really happy for ZZ Top. I'm happy that their music is worth so much. The first big concert that I ever went to, like the first arena concert that I ever went to, was ZZ Top and Lynyrd Skynyrd at the Tacoma Dome in Tacoma, Washington, and it was awesome. Anyway, I hope these guys are going to spend their money well, and by that I mean a never-ending weekend in Miami. Okay guys, so let me know what you think about all of this. Do you think it's too much money for Texas blues rock? Do you think it's not enough? Do you think it's just right? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.